Thank you for downloading from Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. Support for this podcast comes from your generous gifts and donations. You can find out more about Ravi Zacharias and the team at www.rzim.org.
Now, in our society, if we lay claim to the sanctity of marriage, or the sanctity of sexuality, or the sanctity of our belief, or the sanctity of life, you could be throwing oil into a flame and somebody could step in front of a microphone and basically cut you down at the knees.
Welcome back to Just Thinking. These days, scorn is heaped on Christians because of their long-held beliefs. How did this happen in America? Ravi Zacharias is looking at the story of Nehemiah and the persecution he faced while building the wall. Ravi mentioned yesterday the first challenge Nehemiah faced was one Christians are well acquainted with today: scorn. But what is it that believers are being scorned for? That's the topic today as Ravi continues his message titled, Keeping Watch and Counting the Cost.
Look at the scorn Richard Dawkins has poured on John Lennox. Dawkins has one doctorate, Lennox has 3. They don't even need to have facts on their side anymore. But you're scorned. You're ridiculed. Why? Can I give you 4 reasons for this? Number 1, because we claim exclusivity, that there is a single way to salvation, provided in God's Son, in Jesus Christ. Now, why don't they argue against the law of gravity? This is too narrow, you know. Why don't they attack quantum theory? Too narrow, all this stuff. Why don't they attack any other law? Why is it they attack you as being too narrow when you defend the truth, when truth, by definition, is exclusive? When you affirm something, you're implying that the opposite of it is untrue. The moment a person challenges the law of non-contradiction, they actually prove it. Because if you say, no, what you're saying is not true about the law of non-contradiction, you're proving it. You may as well try and draw a one-ended stick. You can't deny the law of non-contradiction. But when you claim exclusivity, they will mock you, they will scorn you. I remember studying under the famed Carl Henry, and he was alerting us to all that was coming down the pike on this, and he wrote some powerful words on what was going to happen in our culture. I was a young man when I heard Francis Schaeffer and Everett Koop speaking in one of the auditoriums in Toronto. And I went to listen to them, and some of the things Schaeffer was talking about that he could foresee coming, I thought, no way, I can't believe that'll ever happen in the West. It has happened. It has happened. Today we glory in our shame, and we've turned any absolute proclaimer to be somebody who doesn't belong in society. Not only do they mock us for claiming exclusivity, they mock us because we see the unseen. We are people of faith. Lennox is so right. Faith is a starting point for all disciplines, but it's not credulity. I don't go into a plane and walk into the cockpit and demand to see the license of the pilots. I assume there are things in place to keep this in check. You didn't just come here, look at a chair and start examining all of the seating and all of the footage and all to see whether it is maybe once in a while it'd be wise to do so. But you put checks and balances in place, and you have the strength of trust. God has put enough into this world to make faith in him a most reasonable thing. He's left enough out to make it impossible to live by sheer reason alone. So we are mocked because we claim exclusivity. We are mocked because we claim to see the unseen. We are mocked because we challenge the sovereignty of man and defend the sovereignty of God. We challenge the sovereignty of man and defend the sovereignty of God. I want to expand upon this because I get more questions on this subject than any other, even in private. And I was asked that even this morning while I was walking through the corridors. See, when Moses stands before Pharaoh and challenges his sovereignty, Moses is bringing a completely different belief system against Pharaoh. And Pharaoh just thought he was omnipotent, he was all in authority, there was no way his authority was going to be challenged or questioned. Now, in our society, if we lay claim to the sanctity of marriage, or the sanctity of sexuality, or the sanctity of our belief, or the sanctity of life, you could be throwing oil into a flame and somebody could step in front of a microphone and basically cut you down at the knees. You could be talking on the age of the earth and the person will plant a completely different question before you. Our team listens to these things very, very carefully. We do challenge the sovereignty of people, but here's what I want you to listen to me very carefully now. Because in our ZIM, I want you to follow me so that I'm not misquoted out here. There are some questions through which we navigate so that we can win the foundation and not get trapped in the infrastructure. We don't want to merely win a battle and lose the war in the process. Please listen very carefully because I'm asked this so often. The whole issue today of sexuality and the issue of gay marriage and all come. It's a volatile question, volatile issue. I have known of one place that was ready to award a doctoral degree to me, and the faculty recommended that. And a chancellor stepped in and said no because of his views on this subject. Imagine that. So the faculty countered and challenged, said, can you show us any statement anywhere that is made which you're taking to task? He couldn't find it. And the doctorate proceeded. It's a very prestigious university. And so I went to receive it, and as a recipient, I also had to speak. The chancellor was sitting right under my nose there. And he came to me afterwards, first one up, and he looked at me, grabbed my hand, and he said, thank you. That was one inspiring talk, and I'm glad you're here with us. The chaplain at one of our military academies came to me, and I won't even say where it was, gave me a hug and said, thank you for silencing the naysayers. Here's what I want to say to you. When we are challenging the sovereignty issue of man, how do we challenge it? So the question comes up on gay marriage and so on. And what does our ZIM say about it? How do we deal with it? We're mocked if we believe in the sanctity of life and so on. Scorned for exclusivity and so on. Here's what I want to say to you, because I've said it so many times, and I was asked again today if I would please explain it, so let me do this for you. We come up with this kind of a response, and here's what I say. I say you are raising a question that is publicly unanswerable, where you destroy the intent of the conversation and forget the content of the question. Here's what I say to them. There are three kinds of cultures in which we live. One is what you call a theonomous culture. Somebody raised that question yesterday on natural law. Theos meaning God, nomos meaning law. There are some cultures, and America is one of them, that has believed in natural law, that God has so poured in our proclivities and our collective consciousness that we hold some of these truths to be self-evident. That's natural law. We don't even need to debate it. It is self-evident. What is self-evident? That we are all created equal, endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights. That was what the framers found as self-evident. Pantheism would never have said it. Islam would never have said that. And the only worldview which would have made it, and naturalism wouldn't have said it, the Judeo-Christian world would have been the only one that would have framed a statement like that. So the foundation on which the laws were built was on self-evident truths of the endowment we have by our Creator with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No other worldview would have framed that. You take it phrase by phrase. Naturalism wouldn't say it. Pantheism wouldn't say it. Islam wouldn't say it. So the monotheistic worldviews of the Judeo-Christian worldview would be the only ones. So theonomous, God's law is poured into our heart. But we don't believe that anymore. So I had a student ask me, raise the question on this whole subject, and I said to him, so we have a theonomous culture. Do you believe we have that now here? He said, no. I said, second, there's a heteronomous culture. Heteros meaning different, nomos meaning law. We don't have theonomy. We don't have God's law. So we have a heteronomous, a handful at the top, dictated for the masses below. In secular terminology, Marxism was a heteronomous culture. Religion is the opiate of the people, the sigh of the oppressed, the only illusory sun that revolves around man, so long as man doesn't revolve around himself. That was Marx's statement. We have to revolve around ourselves. God, religion is the opiate of the people. So Marxism, The few at the top control it for the masses below. In religious terms, Islam is a heteronymous culture. The mullahs, the sheikhs dictate it for the masses, the ethos, when to eat, how to pray, how many times, all this stuff. I say, are we a heteronymous culture? He said, no. I said, then the third option is autonomous culture. Autos meaning self, nomos meaning law. Is that our culture? He said, yeah. We each make our own choice. I said, now, you said we are not theonomous, we are not heteronymous, so we're autonomous. I said, I have a question for you. Since you believe we have an autonomous culture, and the question you have asked is on moral values on a particular subject, if I give you my position autonomously, will you allow me to hold that position autonomously, or as soon as I take the position, will you switch to heteronomy and dictate what I should believe? You see, it's publicly unanswerable until we are willing to play by the rules that we assume. It is publicly unanswerable until we are willing to play by the rules that we assume. If the rule is autonomous, let us learn to give the privilege to each other. But this idea of tolerance now is, I want autonomy, you merit heteronomy. I will take my autonomous route. I will dictate to you what it is that you should believe. So when you challenge the sovereignty of man, you're challenging the things that people want to do. But God has said, you daren't dare the lines. So we're scorned because of exclusivity. We're scorned because we see the unseen. We're scorned because we challenge the sovereignty of man. Lastly, we are scorned because we lay claim to a higher morality. By that, we are not saying we are more moral. We're just saying if you take away the ontic referent of God in his presence and the character of God in whom there is no contradiction, morality is up for grabs. And we build our foundations with our feet firmly planted in midair, and so will be our buildings planted in midair. Nehemiah was scorned. Don't you dare build this wall. For reasons they threatened, they would pull it down. We are trying to build a wall in society to protect our families, our children, and we're being scorned.
Just like Nehemiah of Old Testament days, Christians today face opposition. As Ravi pointed out, living a life pleasing to God won't be easy, but it will bring eternal rewards. To order a copy of this message, call us at 1-800-448-6766 or visit our website at rzim.org or rzim.ca for those in Canada.
From July 24th to July 27th, Refresh, Ready for College, is back for its second year in Atlanta, Georgia. We want to give you the space to think through some of the toughest challenges to Christianity. So if you're a student in high school or headed to college, don't miss this important week. Register now at rzim.org/refresh, and we'll see you at the Zacharias Institute on July 24th.
Just Thinking is a listener-supported radio ministry and is furnished by Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, Atlanta, Georgia. Find out how you can partner with us by calling us or visiting our website.